Hello. So we've got quite an exciting discovery set to go through today, so buckle up, this might be a long one. First, the elephant in the room, I have to say, of course, Perfumes made me do it. I'll be talking about Puente Perfumes, and I imagine anybody stumbling across this video has also seen his. I wouldn't have otherwise heard of this brand. I wouldn't have known about it. Perfumes was really impressed by the brand, so yes, I was influenced. I think that's totally fine. I think it's one of the great things about the internet is the way reading other people's impressions and thoughts can turn us on to things on a global scale that otherwise we would have had no way of stumbling across. But to me, it's more important what a person says about it more than just whether they like it or not. You can kind of gauge and weigh against your own interest. I don't love everything that Perfumes loves. There's things that I like that he's not liked as much. So, don't blindly follow anybody. I don't think I need to tell my audience that. So I prudently started with a discovery set, and I'll go through them today. Again, we'll be talking about Puente Perfumes. It's a small perfumer-run brand from Spain, I believe. And I believe there's even an interview up on Perfumes with the perfumer. So overall impressions, I will say I do like them a lot. I was a little bit cautious to blind buy a bottle just because I'm not always the biggest fan of vintage or retro inflected fragrances, and this is one of the aspects that Perfumes pointed out. And while I don't fully disagree, I think in my mind these are more classic or classical, but they don't smell to me like they're from another time. They still have a modernity, but a real kind of like restrained classicism to them. I suppose while I'm at it, I'll finish my overall impressions. Across the range, there's sort of a discernible style, which I would call a sort of floral softness. You might say somewhere in the vein of Chanel, again, without smelling derivative. But there's just a lot of florals at work. There's a lot of sort of like warmth and heart to the compositions. There's not a hint of harshness anywhere, which is why I picked this beautiful Georgia O'Keeffe print for a background today. So nothing is like modern, experimental, weird, artisanal. They're all very tasteful, but I don't find them boring either. It's a very hard, fine line to walk. So yeah, my take is not so much retro as they are just classical. And also really great dry downs that didn't lose their character, which is one thing I found sometimes with indie perfumes. The bases all end up kind of samey. But they also didn't go into some sort of kind of like ugly or typical aroma chemicals dry down that we smell all too often. So I have the cards pre-labeled here because I just hung on to the ones I sprayed when I first received the set. It's been a couple weeks, so I don't expect there to be any smell left, but I'll do a quick late dry down smell test before I respray. So let's get into it. I think I'll kind of go random order, not necessarily least to best or anything like that. But probably the most famous or talked about so far is Iris Doux. A vague floral C left on the card. Again, I'm not expecting anything. It's been a couple weeks. So this one surprised me. I suppose I've smelled a lot of Iris fragrances. I have a lot of Iris fragrances. So there's certain expectations I have when it comes to an Iris fragrance. And this was not what I expected. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's just not your typical Iris. It's not rooty, it's not powdery, it's not makeup-y. It's actually very warm and soft. It has a very cozy vanilla dry down, which I suppose makes sense. It's really perfectly named. Doux means soft. So yeah, no green, cold Chanel vibe of Iris here. No rooty, deathly, Iris Silver Mist going on here. No, this is very cuddly and warm. It's got vanilla and sandalwood in the base. Up top, I'm getting a really pleasant freshness. I'm not super intimate with this perfume, so don't hold me to this, but if I can think of any reference to this, there's a Maître Parfumé et Gantier Iris that I remember smelling that's maybe more along these lines. Again, not smelling the same. So I pulled up here. I won't read everything because this will be very long and you can look it up for yourself, but I'll just sort of check the notes here. So ylang, mimosa, orris root in the heart, frangipani, jasmine, cedarwood, sandalwood, patchouli, vetiver, tonka bean, and vanilla. So yeah, this was also in my comments, my overall comments, a lot of ylang, a lot of ylang across the range. This goes more sort of the beachy, tropical, fruity ylang. But yeah, overall, I suppose what surprised me is it's not just like an iris soliflor or iris dominant. It feels like iris is just one component in a general, very pretty floral melange. So it's really nice. The dry down tends more towards that creamy, warm vanilla. But I think the mood reminds me of spring, like something very optimistic and fresh and warm, not like biting through big heat, but also not quite wintry. But also feels like there's a neutralness to it that could translate nicely to any season. So very pretty, and yeah, just floral, pretty, creamy goodness. Let's keep going then. So next I've pulled up Veresence. We'll spray this. This one is the big aldehyde. So speaking of Chanel, we can't not talk about Chanel when we talk aldehydes. And yeah, this one's really interesting. It's much more severe to me in the use of aldehydes than Chanel. You get a really like starchy fizziness from the aldehydes here. And I remember when I tested this on wrist, I was waiting for it to dry down into something else, as I'm used to aldehydes just being a top note that eventually reveals something underneath. But the aldehydes kind of stuck around for a good long while, which again, comparisons here are just to give people a footing, not to say anything is derivative. But the new Dior New Look has a similar aspect where it keeps that aldehydic sort of starch coolness all the way through the bottom. But I find that one much more synthetic and harsh. So this one lists galbanum, aldehydes, bergamot, ylang again, neroli, hard notes of jasmine, rose, geranium, tuberose, base notes, vetiver, sandalwood, leather, and musk. So yeah, to me, it's really dominated by the aldehydes. It never goes super creamy or warm to me in the base because the aldehydes just keep going and going. I actually find this really interesting, and maybe even though it's a kind of retro ingredient, aldehydes, maybe the most modern out of all of them, just in the way it feels. It has more of like a coldness, a little less human in that like starchy aldehyde, but really reminds me of like a freshly starched white button-up shirt. So that's Veresence. They mention in a lush meadow with gauzy linens. And again, you're getting a sense of the style here, supported by that floral melange, which is really beautiful. Again, it's one of the things I love about Chanel. Every Chanel has that kind of abstract mix of florals that lend a really beautiful creaminess. But I can honestly say, as a big Chanel fan and wearer, that none of these feel derivative or like they would be redundant with my Chanel perfumes. So onto, I'll just get it out of the way, my least favorite, Gallivant. And kind of ironically, this was the first one I sprayed. I don't know why, I just pulled it out and I was like, oh no, maybe this isn't gonna go well. So it's not bad by any means, but it's again, big on the ylang, and just for my taste, it's kind of a little bit the wrong side of ylang for me. It's just quite waxy, I remember, in the dry down. So ylang is the top note, coriander, cedarwood, oakwood, spices, sandalwood, vanilla, tonka, musk. Again, a lot of similar notes in the base, but they don't smell, they're all distinct perfumes. They don't all smell too samey to me. I'm actually liking it more now, but just my memory of it on skin as I started to dislike it as it dried down. I'm not the biggest fan of tonka. Maybe it's just that ylang tonka vanilla thing just became not my favorite. Right now it's smelling quite sweet. I'm not getting that waxiness that I remember. Sweet, a little bit spicy. I have to say, smelling so many perfumes with ylang really made me realize the genius of Guerlain's Embrun's d'Ylang, because I just love that perfume, but it just really does something special with ylang that I like. But I can see why ylang can go wrong for some people or come off as a retro note. So this, again, on card, I'm changing my mind a little bit. It's a little beachy. It's a little sweet. I still don't think it would be my favorite of the line, but I'm not having the negative reaction to the waxiness that I remember having when I tried it on skin. So again, that was Gallivant. And let's see what's next. Vesperine. So after my known heart, Bjork is my all-time favorite musical artist of all time, at least if we're talking contemporary pop world. I don't know, it's a tough competition with people like Chopin and Rachmaninoff. But I believe, unless I'm wrong, I'm not seeing it here, I believe it's inspired by the album Vesperine by Bjork. And this is the tuberose. Now I have a funny anecdote, which is I had my writings really bad and I had mixed up Vesperine with Veresence, and I thought that Veresence was Vesperine when I was smelling it. I was like, ooh, it really captures that white, snowy atmosphere of Bjork's album because it's the aldehyde one. But I was wrong. It's Vesperine is the tuberose fragrance. This one I also like, but being that Carnal Flower was one of my first big purchases from like a higher price point niche brand, tuberose has a very high bar to reach for me to like it. I do think this is an extremely well done tuberose. If I could criticize it, maybe it's just a little bit that it's just pretty. It doesn't distinguish itself all that much from other well done tuberose fragrances that I've smelled. To me, what distinguishes Carnal Flower is that really beautiful, cool, refrigerated florals greenness, and also Ropion's just like masterfulness with musk, the way it dries down into just the most addictive kind of musk. So this is more kind of straight down the center. If you don't like the cool greener menthol aspects of Carnal Flower, you might like this because this feels softer and warmer. I think for me, I just prefer tuberose when it stays a little bit on the cold and cool side. So I think the description is right on the money. It says honey rich and ambrosial, an intoxicating sweet fizziness that fills the nose. Let's see. So top notes again: ylang ylang, tuberose, jasmine, orange blossom, narcissus, sandalwood, amber musk. So again, it's pretty. It's a really beautiful floral composition. Everything is perfectly balanced. It's not too sweet, not too indolic, not too waxy. I think what keeps these modern is there's like a cleanliness of composition, which is why I say classical. Nothing feels extraneous. Nothing feels overly baroque or like convoluted or thick. Everything wears very nicely, like at a very similar like volume, which is a very pleasant volume. So kind of perfect, maybe Goldilocks tuberose in that it's right down the middle, but me just owning some kind of really fantastic all-time favorite tuberoses. This, I'll revisit it, but it's not high on my list to buy necessarily, but that's just considering what else is in my own collection. So that was Vesperine, the tuberose centered fragrance. Next up, let's go with Eden. Eden, I will say, is kind of my second favorite, or one I'm most considering a purchase. Because you know me, if you've watched my videos, I am a sucker for orange blossom, and this is an orange blossom perfume. It's really nice for current weather. It seems the current summer weather. It has a really nice fruitiness without smelling, juvenile or cheap fruits. There's a picture of like a split mandarin on the website here, and I can really see that. The opening has a really beautiful, juicy mandarin note. And indeed it lists mandarin, heart notes of orange blossom, neroli, jasmine, tropical fruit spices with base of amber musk. Again, it's got that kind of signature warm, musky, floral dry down, but it distinguishes itself from the others with, that really noticeable fruitiness and juiciness at the start. And with as many orange blossom perfumes as I have, I don't have any that pair it with fruit or that pair it with mandarin like this. So I really like this. Again, it pretty well does what it says, so I don't feel like I have a lot else to add, but it does say here, juicy and bursting with mandarin and orange blossom. This uplifting scent seduces the imagination with jasmine and tropical fruits. Really beautiful. Again, just classicism, just like total refinement, which is hugely impressive from a small self-owned perfume brand. I can't believe this level of refinement from the perfume. It's really amazing. So next up, Aurora, which I believe is the most recent release, because I think here on the website, oh no, it seems like it's out now. I thought before it said available for pre-order. This one I smelled with before looking up the notes, as I often do, just to see what I make of it before I know what it's about. And I thought this was maybe really the most interesting because it smelled very strange to me, almost medicinal and band-aidy. And then I come to find out it's a lavender perfume. And now, yes, of course, I get lavender. I get that herbalness of lavender. I've experienced this a little bit in Frederick Mahl's music for a while. That lavender can have that almost, band-aidy, plastic, medicinal smell to it, but in a good way. To me, it adds intrigue. So this one I find really interesting, and this would be maybe my third on the shopping list of ones I would buy. Again, for me, what I would buy isn't necessarily, the best or the worst perfume. It's what I like best, what I find most worth it, but also weighing against what I already own. So it's a very personal kind of rating system. But the website says, step into a new day with Aurora. I'm gonna kind of scan so I don't just read everything. At its heart, it sings with the finest lavender from Spain. A rare and luxurious ingredient sets its fragrance apart, balanced by indulgent amaretto, enriched with tonka, vanilla, patchouli. So lavender is often paired with tonka, and so this could come off, maybe redundant or derivative, but I think it's just the quality of this particular lavender is very unique to me. So it doesn't remind me too much of other tonka lavenders, of which I have the Orme one, which goes a lot sweeter and a lot more vanilla than this. And of course, Jersey. It smells quite different than that. So yeah, I think overall, probably I'm guessing it's just the unique funkiness of this lavender that makes this one quite interesting to me. I'm not sure it would be my favorite to wear, but in terms of just like a smell that I haven't smelled, I think this is maybe the most unique in the line. So almond, bergamot, Bulgarian rose, and neroli rosewood in the top. The special lavender from, oh man, I'm not a Spanish speaker. Lavender from Bijuega, coriander, jasmine, sambac, geranium, and base of tonka, vanilla, sandalwood, patchouli, apopanax, benzoin, oak moss. So yeah, quite a lot going on. And you can smell it. It smells more complex than some of the others, but again, not convoluted. Everything feels in its right place. So next, he kindly, I wasn't sure if the sample set came with this, but he kindly included 2 from the Blue Label collection, which is a collection that contains, I guess, some more rare and hard to source ingredients. So it's sort of limited availability in batches. First up, we've got Chyprelia, which of course is the big Chypre. Now this, no surprise, is vintage leaning, is maybe a hair derivative of the Queen of Chypre, Mitsuko, of course. But to me, it is modernized in a way that makes me like it better than Mitsuko. I would be tempted to reach for this more than Mitsuko if I wanted a Chypre to reach for. But it's very much that classic Chypre scent profile. But everything smells really well, like refined, like really HD, really high definition. None of that vintage murkiness that sometimes you get. And for that, I think it's a worthy composition. It has a purpose in the world, in that it's not just a Chypre. It feels modernized, again, in that classic approach, in its classicism, in its restraint and balance. So it says it contains artisan grade Gardenia Absolute, Oak Moss Absolute, and Peach Accord. So a peach Chypre, what are you gonna expect? But yeah, oh man, compared to Mitsuko, I gotta say, this is just so much brighter and more well-defined. Probably it's just a matter of the age of the Guerlain. This smells like a better Mitsuko. And it says here, floral notes of jasmine, rose, peach, add sensual elegance, while earthy undertones of patchouli, vetiver, leather lend depth of complexity. Now, unfortunately, I do have a mild skin allergy to oak moss. I've noticed this with my older Cristal. I get a very mild itchy reaction, and I wore this on chest, and to my great heartbreak, my chest itched the next day. So I won't be purchasing this one, But if that hadn't happened, it would be on my list just so I could have one kind of modern Chypre that I would feel like wearing. As much as I love and I do own Mitsuko, I rarely wear it. It's more something I just go to smell now and again. So really well done. I mean, if we're comparing this to like Roja's Diaghilev, which is $1,000, this is a bloody steal. The Roja, I don't have massive experience with, but I have smelled it. So from memory, it is a lot bigger. It's a lot bolder. The Roja is just a huge Baroque fragrance. It's like going to a symphony versus this is like chamber music. But I really like the brightness and the clarity of this Chypre. So if you love Chypre and you're not allergic to oak moss, really give this one a try. And I did save the best for last. I'm greedy, so I waited to make this video till I had already pre-ordered my bottle. Iris Doux Special Edition. So the special edition is the edition of Oud. When this came out, I nearly blind bought it. I was a little, wanting to buy something because I didn't buy the Les Indemnisables Oud, which was like almost $500. And then I got the email about this, but I waited. It was out of stock, but currently you can pre-order it. And this is just really good. Up front, I get a lot of leather, and a very strange association is this season I bought Gucci's Voice of the Snake, which is a big leathery oud fragrance. And that kind of leather reminds me so much of the Gucci, but the rest of the details are quite different. The Gucci is a lot more synthetic and kind of just lasts for weeks, months on clothes. This is less synthetic, but just specifically the leather accord reminds me of the Gucci, which makes me wonder, maybe the Gucci really does use real oud. I think it does have at least a bit. Or maybe it's sometimes a saffron material is used to give this leather sense. So maybe it's a similar saffron thing. But anyway, after that, it really has a lot of really beautiful stages. It has that sort of vanilla warmth from the Iris Doux regular. But what I really love, one of my favorite experiences in fragrance, is when the next day you just get this soft veil of something really beautiful that you didn't expect, like something beautiful reveals itself. Some fragrances, something ugly reveals itself at the bottom, but this one, it was the oud. So I had this really nice soft veil of like woodiness left on my skin the next day, the next morning. And at that moment, I knew that this was gonna have to be the first one I order. So it does a really nice job of contrasting elements. It's at once fresh in the opening and warm. The oud isn't immediately detectable except as leather. Maybe the leather here is coming from the oud. But when everything kind of eventually gets stripped away, you get that woodiness in the base. That's really, really, really lovely. So once again, ylang ylang, mimosa, bergamot, and mandarin. So that's where we're getting that nice freshness. Heart of orris, geranium, lavender. Base of oud from Thailand, vanilla, resinous amber, tonka, musk. So yeah, this feels like it's going to be a beautiful winter warmer, but also like all of them, it's not too heavy where I think I could wear it in warmer weather, and especially because it has that sort of fresh opening up top. So I feel like I've gone on long enough. Hopefully that was useful. Overall, really impressed with the brand. Again, I think it depends where your taste lays, what you're looking for in a brand. Very classical without feeling derivative, modern, but nothing really pushing the envelope. I suppose I hate to give other artists critique or advice. What do I know? I'm not a perfumer, I'm a musician, but it would be cool to see his take on something maybe like a little more edgy or experimental or strange, which maybe Aurora is pushing towards that. Maybe kind of wanted to come out with a collection of very like classics and refined perfumes before, pushing the envelope. But they all wear really well. Nothing is beastly, but nothing is a wimp. Nothing really falls apart after the opening. It's just like a soft decrescendo. But they don't last like a huge amount of time. They just give you a good day's wear. I would say straight down the middle, moderate wear and performance. But that's fine by me because none of them reveal anything ugly in the base, and none of them kind of trick you with nice top notes that quickly turn boring. So really well done. Congratulations to the perfumer, Mr. Puente. And that's all for now. Goodbye.